Well, I started cooking with Mum when I was 4, and I always seemed to have a passion for food. I was loved to be in the kitchen all the time, and so I always knew at a very young age what I was going to do. I was lucky in that respect, and so I chose my subjects in school. That was all around home economics and art and that sort of thing. So after grade 12 at Noosa High, I went down to Brisbane and got myself an apprenticeship at the Greek Club in Brisbane, opposite Musgrave Park. And opposite where everyone. They have the big NAIDOC day. And got my apprenticeship there and just started from then, really. I was 18, so I was an old apprentice, really, because they're usually about 14, 15 or something back then. And moved around a little bit during my apprenticeship, 2 or 3 different other places, because I wanted experience. So I did French and German and Italian, Greek food. So, and then after I qualified, I was basically head chef of all the restaurants I was in. And back then I wanted to put bush food on the menu, but people just weren't ready for it, it wasn't what they were into. And 10 years ago I was working for an Aboriginal organisation, set up a health organisation, and prior to that in the 90s I was in the education department. So I got out of cooking because I got sick of slaving over a hot stove for everybody else, and went into the education, and that's when I really realised that in the 90s no one knew very much about Aboriginal people. They knew about dance and song and art, but there wasn't that sustaining, what sustained us, what helped us to live all these years. And that's why I went into bush tucker, because I thought, well, I've got contemporary training as a chef, the knowledge that I can gain from my family and the wider community. And that's how it started, basically. And it was mainly to really just to go into schools and talk to our kids about bush food. They were my priority, let's go in and talk to the Murray kids. And it was quite strange when you first go in, because the little Murray kid always sits way at the back, head down like this, shame he is. And then by the end of it, he's sitting up real strong, and they come up to me and they say, hey, my dad's Aboriginal, does that make me Aboriginal? I said, yep, sure does, and that was a way of them all connecting then, because they saw me just la 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 la, and they really get into it. So we see about 5,000 kids a year, and I used to travel all over the state, and now I'm trying to make Pomona my home and have all our school groups and bus groups book in here now.
They come in here,
As far as I understand, I'm one of the only Indigenous women in Queensland that does what I do. As far as I educate, I do education programs, I manufacture ranges of products, I do cooking classes with chefs and master classes and things like that. So I'm about the only person who does what I do, and it's very hard because we need to get a pool of people from every state and territory who do what I do, because I get we want to actually make it like a franchise.
It's where we need to get our young kids back involved in the cooking again, and teaching them about our own food. Don't be ashamed, because at the moment all they know is rubbish food. All they know is go to the takeaway, fast food, and to get our secondary, the young kids, even this big, right up to the secondary students that are interested in hospitality and cooking, to sort of be able to say, well, I've actually got a path to follow here, because I already know from my grandmothers about this food, and to develop and build on that. And to make something within, because we're so scattered around all over our place, like on the territory, we've got Aboriginal people scattered everywhere. It's not to say that they can't start their own little economic, developing their own little community, whether it be in medicines or bush tucker or tourism or hospitality. And because Aboriginal people seem to be really love food. Food's really important.
Brings them together.
It's the most important thing. You go to any meeting, and food is it. So they love it from the start, and they know about this stuff already, So It's easier. It's easier than trying to teach somebody, like teach an old dog new tricks. They already know.
And as I've been going into schools, I've been finding a lot more people actually going at the end of it. They come up and they say, "Yeah, I do want to be a chef, you know, and I want to get out there and do that. How do I do that? You know?"
And you can give them a pathway then. Just say, well, maybe, you know, if you have your education centre, or maybe they want to go and study in mainstream, you could say, well, off you go, this is where you can go, this is a really recommended place.
We want to do some, because of the connection with France, because we went over in 2004, and that was to do like a introduction to the hospitality students over there and the French teachers, chefs. And that was a week of running heaps of different workshops and stuff there. And they were just so overwhelmed that a little leaf had so much power, you know, the flavour that came out of it and stuff. And lily pillies, like they've never seen lily pillies before, you know, what they taste like after you've cooked them. And because they say to me, "Oh, does that have ginger in it?" I said, "No, that's from the seed."
It's not only our kids and that, but it's people that are travelling into Australia and into Central Australia that are so interested in the tastes of our country. They want to say, "Oh, you know, we come here to see the sights. What do you want to eat?" And there's nothing really. I mean, there's a restaurant in town, but don't mention any names.
So what's been the biggest challenge for you?
Biggest challenge is trying to hold it all together with only me. For the first,
like you.
for the first 4 to 5 years, it was me, and I had me and my mum first, and Mum used to come with me into the schools, and she'd hand out all the dip and everything, you know, and yarn up to the kids, you know. It was one day, it was so funny, they must have been doing autographs or something, Mum and I signing autographs. And we laughed all the way home in the car. "Oh, I felt really famous today." The bush tucker lady and her mother. It started. That's been a really hard one because I didn't have a business plan. I woke up one morning and said to my hubby, "I got $300. I'm starting a business." And he went, "Huh? You know, you're mad." And so then I said, "No, I will." And all I did was go and get my ABN. I registered my business. I sought some different bush tucker plants. I collected all the goods and bits and pieces that you collect over the years, artifacts and things. And I had my very first show, and I had about 40 women. And that was the first start of it. And it was like, the table looked like an absolute brothel had hit it, you know, by the end of it, of the lesson. But I've got very tidy over the years and got it all sweet now. But that was hard. The hard bit is trying to do it all yourself, trying to run your business, like your actual book work is really hard. You know, if you don't have any knowledge of MYOB and that sort of thing, it's horrible. Taxman. Then I got my sister involved, so we've grown from me and Mum to, what have we got now? We've got 5, 6, 7, 8, about 10 staff work here, and we had to get this place so that we can actually run out and do our bush tucker catering that we do. So we do bush tucker catering for all government departments, Department of the Arts, main roads, QCOS, QBuild, you know, you name it, we'll do it.
Expanded.
And that's,
it's good.
And that was big business this year in Naidop Week. It's amazing the amount of money you take.
Any younger people working with you who are showing a real interest?
Yeah, my nephew is he's 16 and he's been working with me since he was 4.
Okay.
And so he's in the kitchen and he does. We're going to get him an apprenticeship because he's very good in the kitchen. So we're going to get him an apprenticeship. I've got his young mate, non-Indigenous guy, he works in the kitchen as well, but he's just tops. Wouldn't give him up for anything, for quids. Really good little dishwasher. And I've got
Someone's
my...
got to wash the dishes.
the dish technician, we call him. And out the front I've got my little sister who's 30. And she runs the whole restaurant. She does 84, 85 people all by herself. She just handles this whole restaurant by herself.
Yeah.
Got a couple of Indigenous chefs in the back as well with us. So we're trying to get a younger crowd.
But bring them out and meet us?
Pardon?
You're going to bring them out?
No, he's not in there now.
Oh, okay.
They've gone home.
Are they going home?
They done that bit and left. You're doing it on your own, but you got all these extra people around that are
Well, I've
helping
set
out.
the business up. I've set the business up in a way that the Dilly Bag is the Dilly Bag, and that's me.
Yeah.
And nobody touches anything to do with the Dilly Bag. So
Yeah.
the Dilly Bag has a range of products. It develops programs, like I write programs for TAFE and that Grow Cook Eat It program. I run different, like they'll get me in to train Indigenous students in hospitality for 12 weeks or whatever. So I consult, like a consultant I suppose, but that's all the Dilly Bag business. And then what I've done now is have a subgroup, this is the Gum Nut Bistro underneath the Dilly Bag. So we're still, but I've got a partner. Then I've also got a partner, so I've done it so it's me, but I've got all these little partnerships. So I've got a guy, Daniel Abad, who works with me, and he's my manufacturing arm. So him and I do the manufacturing of the jams and the sauces and the cheesecakes and that sort of thing. And then with this new project, that's a family trust. That's a bigger and better. The one out there is the Total Dream, and that's what I've been wanting for the last probably 25 years. So I've always been putting it out there, and it'll come back to you. And that's what happens for me. It does. Works for me anyway. So yeah. So that's the big dream, is to actually get the registered training organisation so we can train our people to then go to the next step and the next step and become business people of their own. We've, of course, I'm the president of the Queensland Wild Food and Products here in Queensland. I did the, the National Leadership Program that came out of Canberra.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the men's, women and youth one. Well, I did that one last year, and that opened up to about 800 different Indigenous people then nationally that you're networking with, and that was really good.
Are you doing that to...
In 10 years' time or 20 years' time, what do you see? How do you see the bush foods industry? What's your vision?
My vision? Well, I always thought that if we can get one bush food in every home throughout Australia, that someone's using that ingredient, I think we've done our job. And that's my little goal, so that everyone would have tried or has it in their kitchen domestically.
As a herb or an additive to food.
Yeah, and also increasing people's awareness to grow the food, to grow it at home, and to increase that. Here in, because of the Queensland Wild Food and Products that we've got going, the incorporation, we've got 150 landowners just here in the Sunshine Coast, just in this little parcel here, that want to put bush food in. So they bring me up and say, Dale, what do you want me to plant? And I go and plant some Davidson plum, go and do this, go and do that. So they're all planting all this stuff, and I'm like, oh great, hope I can buy it one day. Hope I'll be rich enough to buy it, But the problem is if we don't start getting them to do it, because it's 5 to 8 years,
that's right.
for fruit. So unless we get them growing and doing it now, we're not going to have that fruit for the future for our kids.
How do you think that can happen? That Aboriginal people
Have a share in it.
have a share in it, and also have their traditional knowledge recognised.
I think it's a lot to work in partnership with non-Indigenous businesses, and that's the way that we're going to grow together as a community and to get bigger and better, by sharing the knowledge and sharing the capital and the resources and those infrastructure. See, in Queensland, we're trying to get funding for our organisation to employ an Indigenous person to go in all up around Queensland and to look at, identify what is out there that isn't even being used. There's slaughter yards that are sitting there doing nothing. Now, why aren't we doing kangaroo? Why aren't we doing, all that in those slaughter yards?
There's already infrastructure there set up.
We could get all the camels from over there and bring them over.
Yeah, you can have the camels. You can have all the camels.
Well, part of this group want to do camel farming.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's another venture that's happening up there.
Because the milk, camel milk, is very good for people with diabetes.
Yeah, heard
So,
that.
milking the old camel and all that. And it's nice meat.
Might stop all the renal failure too.
Yes.
Getting round up on the camels.
Oh, here's some milk. Tie their leg up like that.
I'm too scared.
They'll be spitting at you.